Good morning, and thank you, or should I say good afternoon? It is afternoon, isn't it? And thanks very much indeed for being here. I'm going to skip through quite a few of the elements of this presentation as it is, because the presentation itself is available off our website. So I'm not going to expect that you all read the disclaimer. We'll take that as read. And I'm going to move on past these introductory slides, and I'm going to come to where we are. And I'm predominantly going to speak about two primary of Prem's assets, and I'll have a little bit of a discussion in terms of our holding in the Circum company as well as we go forward. So the two assets we're going to talk about are the RHA tungsten project. Where's this thing gone? It's disappeared. Anyway, RHA tungsten and the Zulu lithium project, and then I'll touch on Circum just now. Just recapping, the RHA tungsten project located south of Wangi. It is a fully developed wolframite mining operation, complete with plant. It has had some work done in the open pit, and it has existing underground infrastructure and a lot of work that we've done to add to the existing underground infrastructure that was there. For example, we re-equipped the vertical shaft, and we've done a lot more development for stoping in the underground. The highlights of this, measured and indicated and inferred resource in the underground, 1.3 million tons at 4.72 kgs of wolframite per ton. Interesting is that when you start looking at measured and indicated, that grade goes up quite dramatically. It's also interesting that in the underground, the deeper we go, the higher the grades. It is, I'm told by my geos, and I accept it as a feature of this kind of mine, that we anticipate that the grades will improve. The underground workings below the access point that we use for the plant and where we are developing at the moment are about 50, 60 meters, 70 odd meters below the exit adit point where we take the ore out of. The existing vertical shaft is about 120 meters. So underground mining development as well as open pit operations. XRT technology installed, which was installed some time ago, and that was intended to deal with difficulties that we had in achieving the anticipated grades in the open pit. Production rate, anticipated and planned that we could eventually get this mine with some additional plant changes, a combination of open pit and underground, up to some very high tonnages and some significant production of wolframite. At the moment, the status is that on the 9th of January, we suspended operations at RHA. We suspended it for two prime reasons. The first was that I had been saying for much of last year that we anticipated the mine to be in profitable production by the end of last year, and that we would not continue funding the mine if it was not in profitable production at that time. The reason for not wanting to continue funding it is that it was under the historic regime in Zimbabwe, where we only held 49% of the asset and the state held 51%. I think we need to deal with that and explain that the law in Zimbabwe has changed. There has been an amendment which has gone through the parliament. It went through as part of the Finance Act. The indigenization requirement for this kind of mining operation has been removed. Our association in Zimbabwe is at a shareholder level with a Zimbabwean government-owned company called the National Indigenization Economic Empowerment Fund. We have support from the board and the CEO of the Indigenization and Economic Empowerment Fund to agree to capitalize our loan account. We are owed about $20 million, and to convert that loan account into equity in this mine. So the proposal that we made to the Zimbabwean government, to the Minister of Mines and so on, was that that loan should be capitalized, that our interest should be increased from 49 to 90%. Now, support, as I say, from the Indigenization Economic Empowerment Fund. The difficulties, as we understand it, are that whilst there is support, there is uncertainty as to who the Indigenization Economic Empowerment Fund falls under. So the Minister of Mines, who I've met with on a number of occasions, has given us assurances this will be resolved, but he can't because the fund and the company no longer falls under the Mines Department. But the Minister of Indigenization doesn't exist anymore. So then it was referred to the Finance Department. The Finance Ministry can't deal with it either, so the very latest situation is that on Monday morning, our representatives meet with other ministers in Harare in a further attempt, hopefully, to resolve this and get sign-off on the proposal. Now, I'm pretty sure it's going to happen. I have a level of confidence. I don't think we would have got this far if it wasn't going to happen. I don't think the Zimbabweans would have changed the law if they weren't going to let it happen. And I believe it's a reasonable and sound financial proposition that has been put to the Zimbabweans, and they tend to agree with it. So I think this is procedural, and I think that it's bureaucracy that is delaying this at the moment. In terms of RHA, once that is approved, and I'm making the assumption that it will be, the mine should be brought back into production. Now, historically, I said that we had started this mine using an open pit. The resource at the time that we went into first production in the open pit was anticipated to have conformity from depths where we had all the drill intersections up to surface. It did not. At surface, there was weathering, and we believe there was some slippage as well. So there was dissemination of this resource, wide dissemination in the open pit. Linked to that, when we first took the decision to fast track into production, the price of wolframite per metric ton unit was around about $450 a metric ton. It slipped to below 150. Went down to about 130, I think. So there was a third of the price. So that, coupled to the dissemination issues in the pit, and coupled to the problems, this was all reported in various RNS over a period of time. There were issues with the plant as well. So all three of these factors made it completely impossible to continue producing in the open pit. We attempted to remedy this with the installation of an XRT sorter. It improved it. The XRT sorter is a magnificent bit of kit. It's there. It's a very expensive piece of machinery. It gives us very good upgrade and is going to be part of the future profitability of this operation. At the moment, to get this back into production, there is a limited amount of further development work to be done in the underground, which was advanced, significantly advanced, at the end of the year when we suspended operations. There's a limited amount of work to be done there. Can you plug your laptop in, please? Hello? Sorry, there was a limited amount of work to be done still in development in the underground, but before this goes back into production, my proposal to, and I'll get into who we're talking to and how we intend to finance this as well just now, has been that there should be a limited amount of drilling done to just find out exactly how much deeper in the open pit we need to go if we want to bring the pit back into production. Not a big expense, and dependent on the outcome of that, to either go back to the 6,000 ton a month that we were targeting from existing underground operations when we shut this down last year, or to review finance and other options dependent, constructing a decline that will allow us to go underground. And I go right back here to published implementation studies going back 3 and 4 years ago, when this mine was always intended to be underground, and it was intended to be accessed through a decline, a vehicle access decline into the underground. That was what the original open pit was intended to do. The decision as to which way to go, or a combination of both, will follow a limited amount of drilling. We are in a number of negotiations in regard to RHA, and these have been published. Nothing can be finalized, excuse me, until the ownership issue is resolved. What I would personally like to see, and I'm speaking very much personally in terms of where I'd like to see the negotiation go on RHA, is I would like to see that a limited amount of drilling is done, that we're able to confirm whether or not to bring the open pit back into production, that we then bring the existing underground at 6,000 tonne a month back into immediate production. We've given guidance before, historically, on what we anticipate that would do. We anticipate that where the wolframite prices are at the moment, which are at $325 to $335 a metric ton unit, that this mine can operate profitably very nicely indeed. But we are in a situation where the next steps at RHA will require finalization of the ownership situation. Thereafter, a level of confidence, negotiations ongoing with other people, nothing can be finalized yet. It may be a case of bringing in a joint venture partner into this, with whom we can now negotiate and give some equity, but can't finalize any of those. So moving on from it, just for what it's worth, there's the mine. It's fully equipped. The plant is there. Whilst it is closed at the moment, the mine continues to be dewatered. The plant is maintained, security is maintained, and we're in a situation to reopen operations there almost immediately. Just briefly, tungsten market, I think, is pretty bullish at the moment, and there's some strong comments on where this is going to go. The next project I want to move on to is the Zulu lithium project. The project, located in just outside Bulawayo, has an existing resource. You can see what the resource is. It's over 20 million tons at 1%, pretty well. Interesting that it contains this thing. I don't know where it's gone. It's disappeared. It contains a high-grade section, 7 million tons at 1.5, with a cutoff of 1.1. The work that we've been doing has indicated, I'm not sure if it's here, it isn't here, sorry, I thought there was a depiction of the actual, there's a high-grade central core that we've established with this, which is likely to be significant and give significant benefits as we go into eventual development and mining of this. But that's the resource. Metallurgical test work that we did gave some very good results. Probably most interesting coming out of it was that not only can we produce a very good spodumene concentrate, but also a petalite concentrate with a very low iron content. There are not many mines producing petalite in the world today. And the petalite has already attracted some interest, both out of Japan and out of Germany, because of the quality of the petalite that could come out of this mine in future. The stage of this is that scoping study was completed. The numbers are compelling in the scoping study. I've said that we are in negotiations with Zulu, and they have been ongoing for some time. They still continue. But those negotiations are at a point where there are draft term sheets that are under negotiation. I can't confirm what kind of a deal or final agreement we're going to reach, because it hasn't been reached yet. I can certainly say that my personal preference in dealing with the negotiation at Zulu will see that the DFS which is the next stage. The DFS will take about a year, cost of around about $5 million. I would like to see that we are able to fully fund the DFS through the introduction of a joint venture partner. And because of the value of this project, and I'm going to move on a little bit here, just to give you an idea. There's the scoping study. We can see some of the NPVs of this project. It's scoping study. Sorry, don't have the values here. But the enterprise values that we have on this compared to some of the other projects that are around, only 3 minutes. The enterprise values that we have on this justify, in negotiating with a joint venture partner coming in, that there should be a significant additional upkick to acquire an interest in the Zulu project. And my personal desire and intention is to see an agreement reached that fully funds the DFS, but also provides funding to Premier itself that will cover Premier's normal operations, normal operating overheads, and so on and so forth going forward. So that's the preferred agreement that I would like to see. But as I say, there is no agreement that is finalized yet. There is negotiation ongoing, and I'm hoping to be able to report something in the pretty near future. I'm going to touch in the last minute that I've been given on Circum Minerals. I don't get very good communication coming back from the directors of Circum Minerals, which doesn't please me. We're a public company. We have an interest in it. So I'm putting a bit of pressure on that at the moment to get better communication, because I don't want to hear through third parties out in the marketplace that brokerage agreements have been signed with significant brokers. Nobody's shown me the agreement, but when I hear from other people that a brokerage agreement has been signed, or when I hear from other people that they want to take this to the market at between $2.50 and $3.50 a share and so on, when I hear this kind of thing, and I'm hearing it from other people, it's mentioned in PDAC, for example, I don't think that that is equitable and correct. But it does seem that in the background, Circum is moving to a liquidity event and is trying to accelerate this. So the moment some of the pressure that I'm trying to bring at the moment comes to fruition and I get answers on that, it'll be shared. I wish there was time to take questions. 116, I believe. 116. We've got no time for any questions?
I'm going to stick with 113. 113.
Is it 113?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
thank you. Thanks very much indeed.